A group of Silicon Valley tech leaders are funding efforts to help undocumented youths attend college and find jobs. At a time when more American citizens are out of work than ever, is this actually a really good idea? How do we deal with this immigration problem and the job problem? I'm Alan Barton. Stand by for Front Page. Joining me in studio, Yaron Brook, president of the Ayn Rand Center for Individual Rights, and Terry Jones, associate editor for Investors Business Daily. All right, guys, it was reported that in response to the failure of the passage of the DREAM Act, several wealthy Bay Area individuals and organizations have helped support undocumented students. Terry, give us a sense of what exactly they're funding and why are they doing this? This is Steve Jobs' widow, the surviving wife, and Andrew Grove, his organization, high-tech organizations. What are they looking for? Why do they want to do it?
Well, you know, my guess is this is not out of some crying need for workers, really, by them. I think they do need workers, by the way. There's no question about that. But, I mean, I think it's really more a social movement than it is an economic movement. But the idea is that they will help fund some of the more promising of these young people who came here with parents who are not documented, or you know, some people call them illegal, and who are, through no fault of their own, have been here since they were kids, and you know, probably are as American as anybody else. So you know, they're trying to help them through college and maybe give them a leg up by giving them an internship at their companies, and then if they get an internship and it works out, then they'll sponsor them for citizenship. All of which is, you know, that's perfectly acceptable, except you also wonder, well, is it just kids who are undocumented? I mean, what about other kids?
Yaron, what do you think of this issue here? I mean, those on the negative side say, look, American unemployment is really high. Why are we helping undocumented workers get some of those jobs that Americans could get? But underlying this is matters of fundamental decency. What do we do about immigration, which is something that both parties trip and fall and stumble on again and again, which is why there hasn't really been a change since.
There's so many issues here. I mean, this is a really complex issue. There's the issue of immigration. There's an issue of education. Why is it so expensive? I was going to say the F word, but why is it so expensive to go to college in this country? We've got this college bubble, and it's because government is funding it. So now, if the government funds it, now the government can decide illegals can't get funding, and these guys can. If it was completely private, then whoever could afford it would pay for it. Nobody would consider illegals not illegal and so on. So it's because the government is involved in higher education we have a problem. And then, yes, we have unemployment. Unemployment's at really high. It's as high as it was in the 70s. But the fact is that there are also huge areas where we lack employees. So, for example, I heard a story in Southern California. There are tens of thousands of manufacturing jobs that they can't fill. You know, specialization. Also, in this country, you know, God forbid somebody do manufacturing, right? You know, that's not the job you raise your kids to engage in. So, and then in Silicon Valley, there are hundreds of thousands of jobs. And when Steve Jobs told President Obama at this dinner that the jobs are not coming back, a big reason he said that is we don't have the engineers. We can't put 30,000 engineers on
the big thing about their factories
thing.
in China, which is getting a lot of attention for their theoretical abuses that are happening, you know. But on the other hand, they were saying that they have 8,000 engineers on call 24/7 to implement a change that popped into Steve Jobs' mind. Oh, I think I want a display that looks like that.
This is not
and they
about
got 8,000 people who can do it.
This is not about wages. The shift to China, to a large extent, is not about wages, because Americans are more productive. In the high-tech sector, the reason is that they have engineers, they have people, they have technicians, and we don't have them.
So should we, I mean, a lot of these people, obviously, when they're addressing, like, trying to get kids a college education, get some jobs, we're talking about people who are, like, 18 years old, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, who probably came in, like, Terry, you alluded to, their parents came here illegally for whatever reason, and maybe the kid was even born here or was very young. He or she had no part in the decision of being here illegally, and now the Supreme Court has mandated that they be educated, and yet there's legislation that you can't give them a job. A corporation could be punished for giving them a job. What do you think?
Well,
I mean, what do we do with a kid who has gotten an education,
Yeah.
wants to work, could be productive working person for any of these jobs that we need, and we then shut it down. It just seems...
One of the things we need to do is we need to have more secure borders, so this issue can be dealt with, as Yaron said, in a humane fashion. And if you accept the current estimates that say we have 12 million to 20 million illegal people within our borders, there's no way you're going to deport them all. So I mean, we have to find some sort of way to fix this problem without thinking that we're going to hunt down 12 to 20 million people and send them on trains or planes somewhere
it's
else.
No one, they wouldn't be able to do it for 100 people without there being a fiasco and the Americans would turn against it. Even if you think you want it, you don't want it when you actually see it being done. Now, obviously, this is an issue in the campaign this year. In several of the debates, Governor Romney has laid out his policy regarding illegal immigration. So let's look at a clip.
The answer is self-deportation, which is people decide that they can do better by going home because they can't find work here because they don't have legal documentation to allow them to work here. And so we're not going to round people up. The way that we have in this society is to say, look, people who've come here illegally would, under my plan, be given a transition period and the opportunity during that transition period to work here. But when that transition period was over, they would no longer have the documentation to allow them to work in this country.
Did you? All right, here's a quiz. Did you follow that? You got an undocumented worker who's going to get a document, and then but then they're gonna give a transition period, but then they're gonna not have the. Are they going to have a document or not? Are they going to anyway, you're on. What do you?
I mean,
it's like calculated.
One of the problems here is because we have no immigration policy in the United States. We haven't had one probably since Reagan.
Not a coherent one.
No, it's a random patchwork of stuff. What we need is massive immigration reform. We need to allow more immigrants legally into this country. It's then easier to secure the border because you don't have millions. You have a limited number.
Yeah, we talked about this because, like before we taped, I said, look, before iTunes, really, there was massive piracy going on because it was so much easier to do it illegally than it was to do it legally. And with iTunes at 99 cents a copy for a store, it became very easy to do it legally. And if you make it easy to be legal,
yes,
you won't get so much illegal activity. It seems to be the common sense solution, but you have this real block in Congress. You have to make working visas and immigration for people who we want here, who want a job, very easy.
Yeah. Also, I have a problem. I get upset with companies that, obviously hire lots of illegals and they know they're doing something that's against the law. But I also have a problem with making companies the enforcer of our immigration law. I mean, that's not what they're in business to do. And we do this with companies all the time. We impose social requirements on them. We make them collect taxes. We make them provide insurance. Now we're going to make them enforce immigration law when all they really want to do is make widgets.
Make a product.
Yeah. So that's another issue here. But
and there's a rights issue. If you own a company, you should be allowed to hire whoever you want. Mm-hmm. And if those people happen to be from another country, it's none of anybody's business. You're not there to provide employment to Americans. You're there to make money for yourself. And you need to be able to hire whoever you want. It's a rights issue. I agree completely. Turning companies into the criminal because our police force and our border security doesn't do their job.
Yeah, and if immigration were really easy, that as you alluded to, somewhat jokingly but somewhat seriously, if you made it really easy, the people climbing over the wall are trying to hide. Then you know what's going on if there's some reason they're not walking in the front door. Anyway, interesting discussion. Thank you, gentlemen, for your own. And Terry, I'm Alan Barton. You've been watching Front Page.